Hello and welcome to Raider basketball. Tonight it's the Wright State Raiders against the Central Michigan Chippewas. I'm Geoff Kim, along with my partner Mark Vest. And Mark, two teams coming in a little bit struggling.
Well, they really are. Central Michigan coming in at 2-5, the Raiders 4-5, and the Raiders coming off their last two losses, averaging 37-point defeats. So, two fledgling programs, two first-year coaches trying to get their identity and build their teams. This is a win both of these teams could use.
And certainly the Raiders could really use this tonight, especially since they are without Tony Balltrip.
Yeah, that's going to hurt. Tony suspended for breaking the team rule. You have to give a lot of respect to Coach Ed Schilling. He says these are the rules, guys, and we're going to live up to them. Tony going to pay the price today. Hopefully the Raiders will be able to rebound with some guys coming off the bench.
Now, of course, we just had the Gem City Jam and, of course, the loss at Michigan State. And really, it has been a difference between size and speed, and perhaps Wright State can match up a little bit better tonight.
Well, and I think they can. Earlier in the year, they went up to Mount Pleasant, Michigan. They beat Central Michigan 82-72, so they've had success against this team. They need to come back to their home floor, kind of circle the wagons a little bit and come out with a victory.
Now, of course, four straight road games, and perhaps a little bit of home cooking can help the Raiders tonight.
Well, especially when you're a team like Wright State is this year. Their confidence is shaken right now. That's what you need to rebuild confidence. You need to get back home, shoot the ball where you're used to shooting it on the same floor that you practice, and come out with a victory.
It's the Raiders and the Chippewas, and we'll be back with a play-by-play after this.
Media One Sports presentation of Wright State University Athletics is brought to you in part by the Midwestern Collegiate Conference, a solid foundation building for the future.
With Mark Vest, I'm Geoff Kim, and welcome to Raider basketball. Tonight it's the 4-5 Raiders taking on the 2-5 Central Michigan Chippewas. And if you're ready now, let's give you those starting lineups. First for Central Michigan, wearing number 20 at a guard spot, it's John Borovich, a 6'1 freshman out of Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. The other guard, number 22, Luke Johnson, a 6'2 freshman out of Gaylord, Michigan. At a forward spot, wearing the number 10, it's Jerry Glover, a 6'3 senior out of Edmond, Oklahoma. His running mate, number 34, Dan Schell, a 6'5 junior out of Pleasant Hills, Michigan. At the center spot, it's number 25, Curtis Gillian, a 6'9 senior out of Flint, Michigan. Their head coach, Jay Smith, his first year with the club, 2-5 overall. In his second year, 25-11. His assistants, Dean Lockwood, Mark Montgomery, and Jeff Smith. For Wright State, wearing the number 32 at a guard spot, it's Brandon Parton, a 6'1 freshman out of Van Wert. His running mate at guard, number 21, Keon Brooks, a 6'3 junior out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. At a forward spot, wearing the number 30, it's Sherman Curry, a 6'6 junior out of McWilliams, Alabama. His running mate, number 44, Steno Koss, a 6'11 senior out of Kloster-Newburg, Austria. The center tonight is number 43, Thad Burton, a 6'8 senior out of Columbus. And their head coach, Ed Schilling, his first year and overall record, 4-5. His assistants, Will Ray, Otis Hewley, Ken Bearer, and Adam Waltzer. Tonight's officials assigned by the MCC, Mike Foote, Brad Groninger, and Glenn Horner. And with that, we get set for tip-off, and it's our first TV game together, Mark, and hopefully it should be a good one.
Well, and I think it will be. Wright State, I think, really has to come out with a lot of emotion here early, Jeff, because they're coming off of two pretty good whippings on the road, averaging 37-point losses to the University of Dayton in the Gem City Jam and then Michigan State the other night. So they need to come out tonight, get untracked early, and rebuild some of the confidence.
Wright State misses their first shot. We're underway, and we got a whistle down underneath and a foul. It's on against Sherman Curry, and they'll head the other way.
Well, I believe what they called down there was Sherman got up, got the rebound off the offensive glass, came down on the baseline. But, you know, Sherman Curry is one of those guys that can elevate. He's got to use that to his advantage against a smaller Central Michigan team here today.
Central Michigan set out on the perimeter on the outside. Borovich, the point guard. His running mate at guard, Jerry Glover, the team's leading scorer. They look to dump it down low. And double-teamed, triple-teamed, and nothing going, and Keon Brooks the rebound.
Well, and that time, great defensive help by Steno Koss, rotating over Thad Burton, trying to body up in the inside.
Wright State misses the deuce, and we've got a whistle down on the floor. Is it a foul on Thad Burton, or was the Central Michigan player out of bounds? It looks to be a foul on Burton.
Well, and that time, Glenn Horner, the trailing official, doing a nice job realizing that, you know, yeah, the Central Michigan player fell down, seemingly traveling with the basketball, but when you get a little additional help, especially from somebody the size of Thad Burton, you're going to go down. That was a good call.
Gillian got that initial rebound. We've got no score as we're waiting to play our first minute of this ball game. Once again, the perimeter offense set up by the Chippewas.
The Raiders coming out man-to-man defense, a lot of pressure. That's where you can really get into a game. Sherman there again, using the leaping ability to get it up, rejecting the jump shot.
Here's a shot from 18, no good, and Wright State comes away with it. Here's Brandon Parton on the break. Up ahead for Sherman Curry, and they just keep it in bounds. Shot is blocked underneath, and it's out of bounds. It is a Central Michigan ball.
Well, and I think this is the kind of tempo that Ed Schilling wants to see out of his team. A lot of intensity on the defensive end, then getting the ball from their defense and pushing it up the floor. That's the way you get the crowd into the basketball game, and that's how you get off to an early lead.
Shell, baseline J, yes. It's 2-0 Central Michigan. And Shell, 6'5" sophomore out of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and Brandon Parton answers back, and we're even up. It's a Wright State ball. It got away from Luke Johnson wearing the number 22. He tried to get it out of bounds on Keon Brooks, but he was already out, and it's a Wright State possession.
Well, and both of these teams so far early in this young season tend to turn the basketball over. There you see Brandon throwing it away, and then Central Michigan stepping on the out-of-bounds line. Both these teams, Jeff, averaging nearly 20 turnovers a game, so that's something both teams, I'm sure their coaching staffs are working on. You have to maximize your possessions. You can't afford to turn the basketball over and expect to win games.
A lot of it can be attributed to youth. Parton, of course, the freshman out of Van Wert, the reigning Division IV Player of the Year in high school in Ohio. Moves baseline, rebuffed, and they lose the handle on it. It's out of bounds, and it's a Chippewa ball.
Well, an interesting defense that time. John Borovich allowing Brandon Parton just to continue to take the ball to the basket, let him have the penetration. They get him inside. That time Brandon got too deep, nowhere to go with it. So defense worked out well for Central Michigan.
Borovich at the point. Look down for Luke Johnson, trying to find an alley, and gives off for Shell. Back up top for Johnson, and they play it around the perimeter. Borovich, and this pass deflected out of bounds, but it should still be a Chippewa ball. It is.
Nice hands that time defensively by the Raiders. That's what you have to do in defense. You're not always going to shut people down, but you have to get your hand on the ball. You have to deflect it. That's the way you play good team defense.
They play it back up high. Shell thought about the three. Now the three taken, and it's in and out. Stick back, no good by Shell, and Wright State the rebound.
Well, Dan Shell at 6'5". Raiders should not be giving up second shots with a decided height advantage, and they take it right back down inside on the offensive end and capitalize.
Steno cost the deuce. It's 4-2 Wright State. Johnson, they give back up top for Gillian, playing at the high post. Now the point guard, or rather Jerry Glover, their team's leading scorer and rebounder. High post, and this one out of bounds. It'll be a Wright State possession intended for John Borovich.
Well, and again, another turnover for Central Michigan, just not doing a good job of handling the basketball. The Raiders, I think some of the credit deserve some of that credit. A lot of intensity on the defensive end so far early in this ball game by the Raiders.
We got 17:07 left to play in this first half. It's a Wright State 4-2 lead, and Parton at the point, right forecourt. Looking to dump it up high, rather, for Keon Brooks. Is really his first touch of the ball game, and they play the two-guard set.
Well, Jerry Glover at 6'3", an athletic-type player, going to put a lot of pressure on Keon. You don't want to allow Keon to get a whole lot of shots off, because that's where he really gets untracked.
Nice little baseline move for Brandon Parton, but the whistle on the baseline.
Foul is on number 45, Aaron Brown.
Aaron Brown guilty of the foul for Central Michigan. A kick ball, it'll still be a Wright State possession.
Well, neither one of these teams early on in this ball game, Jeff, shooting very well. The Raiders at 40%, Central Michigan at a very, very cold 17%. And it continues for Wright State. That time with a pretty decent shot. Got to get those to fall.
Shot is blocked towards the coach's section at the Raiders, and the fans appreciative. And we've seen some leaping here in the early going. Nothing for scoring, though.
Well, and that's something that Sherman Curry, with his leaping ability, can do to Jerry Glover, who wants to go ahead and take jump shots. Just go up and get it. Sherman's got that ability.
And a steal. And here we go. Showtime. It's 6-2. And we've got a little timeout on the floor. With 16 left to play in this first half, it's 6-2.
Well, and I believe what's being called is a technical foul on the Central Michigan coach, Jay Smith. Not very happy with some of the exchanges that went on down at the other end on the prior possession. A lot of people getting knocked to the floor. He was not real happy with it, so he voices his concern, and Keon goes to the free throw line and bricks the first of 2 technical free throws.
Keon, a 69% shooter from the charity stripe. And the charity stripe shooting for the Raiders down a bit this year. And a second of 2 will fall, and it's 7-2.
Well, and 69% from the free throw stripe from a guy who's going to touch the ball as much as Keon Brooks does. He needs to improve on that because he's going to have his hands on the ball so often. He's going to draw a lot of fouls. Keon's got to knock the free throws down.
Curry looking to inbound and right in front of us, and Koss has it. Steno taking his time. And looking underneath, and oh, we got a foul underneath. Thad Burton going up strong, and he was fouled by number 34, Dan Shell.
Well, and I don't know that we've mentioned it so far yet tonight, Jeff. We've got a couple new entries into the starting lineup, Sherman Curry and Steno Koss, and Anome Scotty Makpor, Marvin Rogers, both arriving late this morning for a team shoot-around, and Tony Baltrip not going to be playing today because he broke a team rule. So you have to give Ed Schilling a lot of credit. His team is on the ropes. They've lost a couple games in a row. They got thumped pretty good, but team rules are team rules. It doesn't matter whether you're 0-20 or 20-0. You're going to live by the rules.
Thad Burton, 1 of 2 from the charity stripe, a 57% shooter from there, and it's 8-2 Wright State. Pressure being applied by Pardon, but Tim Kistner breaks it, goes to the hoop, and will not score, but a foul.
Well, and that time the Raiders just allowing the penetration to go too far of Kistner. You have to step up, whether it's the people inside, whether it's the point guard, off guard. Somebody has to rotate over and stop that penetration. That time they didn't do it. Kistner got it all the way down into the paint. All the Raiders could do was foul, and that's what happened. Kistner goes to the free throw line.
Thad Burton, his second foul already. Kistner, no. Tim Kistner shooting 33% from the charity stripe. There's some substitutions coming in for the Chippewas. Sherman Curry will exit for Wright State as Steve Yeagle will check on in.
Sherman Curry doing a nice job early in this ball game on the defensive end of the floor with his leaping ability and the long arms. Doing a good job getting up, blocking some shots, and intimidating some people from Central Michigan.
Kistner can't make them both, and cost the rebound. And Wright State in the passing offense. Burton post up, turn around, Jane, no good. And Yeagle comes away with it. And we've got a foul. It's against Keon Brooks. A little charge against number 20, John Borovich, and a nice bit of play defensively for the 6'1 freshman.
Well, and Ed Schilling, I don't think really agreed with that, but he's not going to be the type of coach who's going to be very vocal with the officials. And Jay Smith from Central Michigan just kind of laughed as well. So timeout on the floor.
We've got a timeout on the floor. It's 8-2 in favor of Wright State, and we'll be back in just a moment. 8-2 in favor of Wright State. We've got 15:44 left to play in this first segment. And so far, turnovers have been the story of this one, Mark.
Well, they really have. And we mentioned before, both of these teams so far in this early season haven't done a very good job of taking care of the basketball. Both Central Michigan and Wright State averaging nearly 20 turnovers a game. Most coaches would like to be in the 10 to 15 range. But, early on, both these teams, Wright State with 4 turnovers in the first 4.5 minutes and Central Michigan with 5. And neither one of these teams shooting very well when they do get a shot at the basket. Central Michigan, 17%. Wright State, 38.
Well, that's simply not going to get it done. Really, in the hindsight for both teams. Dan Shell waiting.
There you see Steve Yeagle kicking the ball out on the wing to Keon. Good defense that time by Borovich. Good anticipation where Keon's going to go with the basketball and draws the charge.
Once again, they keep it up high up on the perimeter. Shell over for Aaron Brown. Pulls it up from 12. It's up no good. And the rebound up high from Thad Burton. Thad, one of the rebounding leaders in the country. They go for Pardon. Looking over for Keon Brooks at the free throw line, all net. It is 10-2 in favor of the Raiders.
Well, and that's a shot that Keon is very, very good at, and I'm sure he likes that shot. Coming off a screen right at the free throw line from 15, knocks it down.
Baseline move, no good, and the rebound to Koss. John Borovich missed that one. Keon on the other end, no good, and the rebound by Aaron Brown.
Tough shot by Keon that time. Pass was up ahead of him. Central Michigan comes right back down, beats the Raiders back. Nice little backdoor pass over the top to Dan Shell.
Oh, Shell was right in perfect position. It is 10-4. Diego looking for someone, and it's taken away by Aaron Brown. Borovich leading at the point. The freshman, one of the two freshman guards starting, and we've got a foul. Contact in the paint with Steve Yeagle.
Well, and I believe that's 2 on Keon Brooks. Thad Burton also with 2 personal fouls. 2 people right there, Jeff. The Raiders cannot afford to lose to foul trouble. You've got to keep those people on the floor. Thad for his presence on the glass. Keon for his offensive and defensive leadership.
The inbound comes up high. Wright State playing a tight defense down around the paint. Here's a shot for 3, and it's a little short, and the rebound goes to Keon Brooks. Keon moving, looking for Thad Burton, and no good, off the back of the iron, and the rebound to Aaron Brown.
Thad's got to knock that shot down. Keon doing a nice job staying under control. The little dump pass into the middle.
Brown off the target, and it's out of bounds. And it'll still be a Central Michigan possession.
Raiders substitutions.
Curry coming on back on in, and so is Bruno Petersons for the first time in this one. Bruno, a 7-foot freshman out of West Chicago, Illinois.
Well, a good substitution for Thad Burton. I think Thad's getting to the point. He's missed a couple easy shots. You don't want a guy to start pressing when he's already got 2 personal fouls. So I think a good time for Thad to come over, take a seat along with Keon Brooks, just rest a little bit and not draw that 3rd personal early in the first half.
18 on the shot clock and some sloppy passing, but Central Michigan holding on to it. Here's the open J from the corner, yes.
Good job that time by Central Michigan. Nice little dump pass, jumped it all the way across the floor. Raiders have to be able to recover.
Aaron Brown got the 3, but Sherman Curry, the little hook shot on the baseline, and then it's 12-7. Taken away by Brandon Pardon. Controlled break, and will hold up shot.
Good decision by the freshman point guard right there. Realized he didn't have the numbers. Possessions are too valuable. Pulled it back out, reset the offense, let the troops gather up.
Diego for Curry. And they bounce it down low for Koss. Turn around Jay, no good. And taken by Central Michigan.
Early in the ball game, Jeff, the Raiders, the big man inside, just not getting it done offensively, getting some pretty easy shots. Steno doing a nice job on the defensive glass.
That shot taken by Shell, and of course, Steno another rebound. And perhaps looks like Brandon's going to try and slow this one up a little bit. His team up 5, 12-7. Nobody around. Sherman Curry was cutting to the basket, and he was hoping that Curry would still play it up high.
Well, and now is the time when Wright State really needs somebody to step up offensively. You've got your 2 horses in Thad Burton and Keon Brooks, both taking a seat on the bench with 2 personal fouls here early in the first half. You have to handle the basketball. Take some time, get a good shot, and then capitalize.
And again, another substitution package for the Chippewas, and Tim Kistner handling the ball. Over for Ed Carter, who just entered the ball game. Here's the long 3, and it is short. It's an air ball, and it's out of bounds. Possession, Wright State.
Well, that's a shot right there. I'm sure Jay Smith, the head coach from Central Michigan, he'd rather have that one back. When you've got Wright State in this position, Thad Burton, Keon on the bench, you got to get good shots.
Arden will trigger the 3, and he'll knock it down. 15-7, Wright State.
Well, you know, what I've seen from Brandon Pardon so far in this year, Jeff, kid has unlimited range, and he picks his shots very well as he did at the other end.
Brown for 3, and he will knock it down himself. It is 15-10.
Aaron Brown.
It has been back and forth, but Wright State still holding that 5-point advantage. Peterson's looking baseline, turn around, Jay Curry, no good, a little short, and cost the rebound. It is tagged out of bounds. It'll be a Wright State possession.
Well, and again, the leaping ability of Sherman Curry coming down the other end. Gets up on the jump shot, but the Raiders with the height advantage get the offensive rebound and maintain possession.
We've got an official timeout with 11:40 left to play first half. Raiders lead at 15-10, and we'll be back in just a moment. It is a score of 15-10 here at the Nutters Center with 11:40 left to play first half between the Chippewas of Central Michigan and the Raiders of Wright State. Some scoring to pass along. Aaron Brown leads all scorers with 6 points. He's got a pair of trees. And for Wright State, Keon Brooks and Brandon Parton each with 5, and already the backcourt combination paying off for Wright State.
Well, and those are the two guys that you hope will have good, steady offensive nights every time out. You need consistency out of your guard position. The Raiders really haven't had that game in and game out so far this year, and if they can gain some consistency with their guard situation, that opens things up for the inside people, which they've struggled as well. Even tonight, not shooting the ball extremely well. Thad missing some easy shots on the inside, Steno as well. So you have to have balance from your backcourt and your front court to be efficient on the offensive end.
Now, Mark, I know you're a big man, but just how important are the guards to the college game?
Well, I think they're extremely important. Number one, because with the three-point shot, you can really get your team back in a game from the perimeter, and also your big people can't get anything done unless you have quality guards to deliver the basketball. So if you've got guards who can penetrate, dish the ball, and can also get a few rebounds for you and shoot the ball like Steve Yeagle did right there, your guards are invaluable.
Well, Yeagle just knocked down the 3. It's 18-10. The biggest lead for Wright State as they set up in a 2-3 zone defense.
Well, and we'll see a lot of switching defenses from Ed Schilling. They start out in man-to-man defense.
Oh, nice backdoor cut, but rebuffed by Bruno Peterson.
Well, regardless of what defense you're going to play, if you can get backdoor support like that from your big people and blocking shots, you're going to be a good defensive team.
Yeagle, another 3! It is 21-10.
Steve Yeagle coming in off the bench, adding a spark with Keon. Thad Burton taking a seat with foul trouble. So Steve Yeagle's one of those guys. Comes in off the bench. He's not real flashy except in situations like that. He's just going to come in, do a good, solid job for you.
They look for another backdoor cut, and Wright State looking to take it away, and they do. Last touched by Central Michigan, and good job on defense from Anomi Scotty Mockpour just into the game. The freshman out of East Lansing, Michigan.
Anome, a very, very athletic player. Good leaper, can get up and down the floor. He's somebody that athletically, his potential is almost unlimited. He's a guy that needs to learn the game a little bit more, but he's got all the tools.
And of course, he's got the flashy headband. Parton for 3, and it's a little long.
As I mentioned before, Brandon, unlimited range, takes a three-pointer there from a couple feet beyond the arc and shot it long. So he's a quality three-point shooter.
Looking to pass, and nobody in the vicinity on the left forecourt. Turnover to Wright State. And mass substitutions once again for the Chippewas as they have 4 players coming on in.
Good substitution that time by Jay Smith. When you're playing a team that's bigger than you, you tend to get wore down more than you would if you match up well. So he's going to keep his troops fresh, get them in and out, keep the legs fresh so they can play good, tough defense.
Curry and Parton, the 2-man on the right side. They look for the back door, and it's off the rim. Nice save by Yeagle. It's out of bounds, but the Chippewas will get the ball, and the fans here are not appreciative.
Well, and Jerry Glover that time, Jeff, did an outstanding job of defending the backdoor cut by Sherman Curry going for the alley-oop. Didn't hold him, but kept a body on him. It's very difficult to jump when somebody's bodying you up. Central Michigan doing a nice job that time against the alley-oop backdoor play.
Glover, Morovich, and they look down low and nearly taken away, but Central Michigan holds on to it. Traffic, we got a held ball, but a foul called on Sherman Curry.
That time just a little too much reaching by Sherman. Got to play defense with your feet. You don't want to get caught reaching because you're going to get fouls. 9 times out of 10, referee's going to blow the foul.
Non-shooting foul, first foul on the big man. Kistner with it, looking to penetrate, create, shell. Now we'll pass it back up on top for Borovich. The look baseline, shot put up, no good, but the whistle called.
Well, and again, the dribble penetration. Central Michigan does a very good job of continually moving the basketball. Very rarely will you see a player stand and hold the ball and allow the defense to reset and adjust. They do a nice job of skipping the ball around the floor. It's tough on a defense, especially a bigger defense, for them to adjust. And then when they get the open lane, they take it to the basket and draw the foul. Central Michigan doing a nice job offensively.
Borovich will nail the first one, a 68% shooter from the charity stripe this year. Brian Gross will enter the ball game for Sherman Curry, who had 2 quick fouls. Gross, the 6'7" freshman out of Norwalk. Shot put up, Borovich in and out, and the rebound by Gross. 21-11. We've got 9:14 left to play first half. Scotty Mockpour back up high for Brandon Parton, over for Gross. Puts it on the floor, and it's taken away by Shell.
Well, and Wright State with a lineup on the floor right now, Jeff, that you won't see very often.
Brown for 3, who will knock it down. Aaron Brown has 9 points, all from behind the arc, and it's 21-14.
Well, it's all driven out of the defense. Central Michigan doing a nice job. They got back defensively, got the steal, took it down under control, and knocked down the good jump shot.
Gross for Scotty Mockpour. And look, baseline for Gross, double teamed, and this one deflected away. Gross recovers. The look down low and taken away by Central Michigan. Off the hands of Petersons. The nice look for Brown, yes.
Wright State needs a timeout. They've got a team on the floor right now that, the easiest way to put it, they don't know what they're doing. They haven't played that much together. You've got a lot of people uncomfortable with each other, and Central Michigan taking very, very big advantage of that, taking the ball away on the defensive end and running it right down Wright State's throat.
Brandon Parton wisely calling that timeout because it had been the Aaron Brown show. The threes, and then, of course, the deuce on the other end in transition. He's leading all scorers with 11 points for Central Michigan. However, the rest of his team not supporting him. For Wright State, Steve Yeagle, some support off the bench. 6 quick points on a pair of threes.
Marvin Rogers now checking into the basketball game for the first time so far yet tonight. Sat out the first 12 minutes of this first half for disciplinary reasons, being late for a shoot around here this morning. Marvin's a guy they got to have come in here and get on track. They need a boost right now on the offensive end of the floor.
He's a 6'9" sophomore out of Wallace Community College, a good-looking kid, physically speaking. He's looking to post up, and he gets the ball high post to give back to Parton.
Well, right now, you know, as a coach, you would hope that Marvin would come in and let the game come to him a little bit. Don't try to force things. He's been sitting on the bench watching for 12 minutes so far, showing a lot of patience and poise.
Gross looking around, puts up a little runner, no good. It's headed out of bounds, but Parton will save in a fresh 35.
Central Michigan doing a nice job, Jeff. A lot of pressure on the basketball. Good defensive team. You can just see it. They help each other out. They don't get out of position, and when they're on the ball, a lot of hands, a lot of pressure.
Scotty Mockpour with 13 on the shot clock. Gross back to Scotty Mockpour. Thinks about the 3, and Yeagle has it now.
Well, right now the game, the intensity going the way of Central Michigan. I think maybe we missed a foul right there, but you know, you have to play team defense, and for the Raiders, you have to play team offense. A lot of people standing around watching the ball.
And we've got a timeout on the floor. 7:10 left to play first half, and the Raiders have a 5-point lead. It's 21-16, and we'll be back in just a moment. It is 21-16 in favor of the Wright State Raiders. And Mark, the thing that we had initially been concerned about is the drought in the first half shooting, and that has not been the case here for the Raiders.
Well, the Raiders have come out early in the ball game predominantly and did a decent job on the offensive end of the floor. They've only shot 40%, and then here later in the first half, they've accumulated 9 turnovers. And Central Michigan's starting to shoot the ball better, but I think the problem started when Keon and Thad Burton went to the bench. Wright State, from that point on, offensively just could not get anything done, and therefore Central Michigan would get the ball off the glass, take it and run. They've gotten some easy baskets in transition. So Wright State is primarily a team that's dominated by Thad and Keon. You've got to have those 2 people on the floor for things to click, and so far here in the first half, the Raiders have been saddled with some foul trouble and haven't been able to keep those 2 on the floor.
6 points right now to lead the Raiders for Steve Yago. 11 to lead the game for Aaron Brown on the strength of 3 threes. 21-16. We've got 7:10 left to play in this first half. As the Raiders looking to break a 2-game losing streak, and a tough 2-game stretch, Mark, it has been.
Well, it really has. And, the one positive to that, obviously they go across town for a game with UD. Seemingly the last game that will be played in the Gem City Jam, but I'll believe it when I see it. And, they go across town, they lose by 31. Then they go to Michigan State a few days later, and they get drubbed by 43. And, coming off of 2 losses like that is very difficult. But what you have to remember, it's 2 pretty good basketball teams, and you just have to learn from the positive things in both of those games.
Kistner thought about the 3. Now we'll put it in play for Borovich. Borovich up high. Keep it in play. Puts up a runner. No good. And a fight for it. Onomi Scotty Makpour getting the rebound.
Well, and the Raiders back that time with a man-to-man defense. So far tonight we've seen Coach Schilling change a lot of things up as Marvin gets the shooter's roll off the back flange, takes the high bounce, comes back down. That's what they need out of Marvin. Things like that will get a shooter untracked early.
And we got a foul on the other end. Well, Mark, what do you say about being lucky then good? Well, in that case, Marvin really proved that right. Raiders lead at 24-16. We got a whistle on the floor.
Well, that's a big part of Marvin's game. He's 6'9", he's 230. He's not a power guy. He's got the big long arms. He's very athletic, but to have a guy 6'9" who can stand out beyond the arc and take shots like that and knock them down, that makes it very difficult for the opposing team to defend you, because if you got people with size who can go inside and out, it's very difficult to match up against.
Glover at the line, a 67% shooter. The 1-on-1, he'll get the bonus try. He's the team's best player as far as we're concerned. Points and rebounding, averaging 12.5 and 5 boards per game. He gets his first point of the night. And the second, hard off the glass, and it's out of bounds. A lot of contact underneath on the left block.
Well, Marvin's just got to go up and get that basketball. Neither of the Wright State people down on the block did a very good job of getting a body on people. You saw a couple Central Michigan players get in there and get a hand on a missed shot. Got to body those people out on the free throw line.
Tim Kistner handling the ball, double teamed, and they play it around the perimeter. Looking for an outlet on the baseline, rebuffed up top. Shell, and an open Jay Kistner passes up, moves baseline, and is blocked by Onomi Scotty Makpour, and it'll go the Raiders' way. Nice defense.
Yeah, it was good defense that time. Raiders that time defensively using the 6-man, the baseline. Forced the player baseline, he's got nowhere to go. Got underneath the basket, nowhere to throw it.
Gross with the ball, looking for the backdoor cut. Yago double teamed, and at least they track it down. Rogers back up high for Pardon. Trying to set a pick up high is Rogers, and they feed down to him on the baseline. Puts it up, no good. It looked like it was partially blocked, but Central Michigan comes away with it.
Well, and that's not a shot that you want out of Marvin Rogers. Got to get better shots. As Central Michigan again, Jeff, comes down, turns the basketball over. That's the 10th of the game so far for them, and I'm sure Jay Smith, the head coach from Central Michigan, not too happy about that.
Well, Jay Smith has had a track record of winning and turning teams around when he's had to. Last year, he went 23-5 with another team, and he came on over here to try and turn this one around. Here's Rogers for 3, and it's long. Gross trying to fight for it, holds on to it. We've got a foul, and it's going the other way.
Well, and again, Marvin Rogers taking the 3-point shot from deep in the baseline and coming up with nothing but air. Got to get better shots than that. You got to take some time. You got to move. You got to make the other team play defense and take what they'll give you. So far, the Raiders just not doing a very good job of choosing good shots.
Kistner at the point, guarded by Pardon. Over for Jerry Glover. The big man, the big star so far, well, rather Dan Shell. And they keep the rotation alive. Kistner up high for Ryan Jansen. Kistner with it, trying to juke around with 9 on the shot clock. Back up high. Here's a shot for three, and it's a little short. And a fight for it, and Central Michigan comes away with it.
Well, Jerry Glover at 6'3". Raiders got to have that rebound.
And they do this time with Marvin Rogers. Barton trying to break a scoring drought. Here's a shot for three, and it's knocked down by Steve Yeagle. Up ahead for Jerry Glover, and they'll play it back, and another shot attempt for three, maybe, but taken away. Here's Glover for three, and it's a little short. Shell turnaround, Jane, no good. And Wright State will come down with it in the person of Ryan Gross. Part around, nice turnaround move, baseline. Now the give back out shot for three. It's a little short. And Scotty Mock for the rebound. We've got a foul. Contact down low between Scotty Mockpour and Central Michigan's Jerry Glover.
Getting a little physical on the inside. There you see Inome doing a nice job. Good hands that time. Two Central Michigan players. Inome still comes up with the offensive glass, and he draws the foul. Good, tough job that time on the glass.
And we've got 3:48 left to play in this first half. We'll keep things right here. And Wright State trying to take real command of this game. They've now brought the lead back up to 10. It's 27-17. But we've seen that lead fluctuate between 4 and 10 points. What can the Raiders do?
Well, I think what they need to do now is realize that, hey, when we come down on the offensive end and we take some time and we get the good shot, they're capitalizing. Last time down the floor, very good example. Brandon Parton doing a nice job, dribble penetration, kicks into the corner. Steve Yeagle was ready. He was spotting up on the arc, not out of control, had his feet under him, took the good shot and knocked it down. You can't come down the floor on the offensive end and just throw up shots, little turnaround jump shots 15 feet on the baseline. You have to be efficient on the offensive end. If the Raiders can do that, they can shut down the transition game of Central Michigan, which later in the first half has really been beneficial for them. They're getting the defensive glass and running it right up the floor. If you knock the ball down offensively, that takes that game away from Central Michigan. Then they have to come down in a quarter-court set and beat you when you have a bigger team. So Raiders need to take time and not allow the transition of Central Michigan to get them back in the basketball game.
Right now, the hot hand belonging to Steve Yeagle. He's 3 of 3 from behind the arc for 9 points. And after that last three we saw him with the little gunslinger motif, shooting the gun, and he's hot.
Well, Steve Yeagle is one of those guys. He's going to come in off the bench. He's going to give you quality minutes. He's a textbook shooter. You get the ball to him, he spots up, he can knock it down. He just has to make sure he can get himself open. Steve's going to play hard for you. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to come out and give you 100% every night.
Turnovers have been even. Wright State shooting an even 40% from the field. Central Michigan just a hair over 26. Yeagle to trigger baseline. And it's taken away by Central Michigan, and we've got contact up on the high post. Ryan Gross guilty of that.
Wow, 2 sins right there for Ryan Gross. Ball goes through his hands on the inbound pass. Then he turns right around and commits the personal foul. So need a little more concentration. That time, Ryan, I'm sure, knew what the play was. You got to be ready to catch the basketball. Wherever you are on the floor, you have to be ready to catch the basketball. And that time, took his eye off it, went through his hand, then came right back and committed the personal foul.
Ryan Jansen at the line, shooting a perfect 100% from the charity stripe this year. He gets the first. 6-foot freshman out of Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Second one is up and in. And it's 27-19. We've got 3:45 left to play first half. Parton keeping things alive for Marvin Rogers. And he'll give it back to Parton.
You know, if you're Coach Ed Schilling over on the Wright State bench, you have to be very comfortable with where you are right now. Thad Burton, Keon Brooks, spending the majority of this first half on the bench with foul trouble, and you still have an 8-point lead. So has to be very happy if he can work his way through this first half, get into halftime, make some adjustments. Steve Yeagle, another deep three-pointer, but draws nothing but iron. Sherman Curry, again, using the leaping ability, gets a second shot and drains it.
Nice shot from the high post, and it's 29-19. Wright State doing a good job with the 2-3 zone defense. They've really not allowed anything in here in the last 10 minutes.
Well, and they've done a nice job of changing defensive looks each time down the floor and varying what they're doing. Inbounds passes, doing a nice job. You got to keep a team like Central Michigan who likes to move the ball, likes penetration. You have to keep them off balance, and you do that by changing your defenses.
Borovich baseline, double teamed and taken away by Ryan Gross. Up ahead for Brandon Pardon. Pardon with the ball, right at the key, over from Marvin Rogers. Now Pardon gets it back. Over by the center Wolf. Has been a new addition here to the Wright State floor this year. Sherman Curry gets a touch. And Wright State looking to run some clock here in the late minutes. Curry looking down low for Gross. Back up high for Yeagle. Another three, and it's a little short. And rebounded by Curry. Puts it up off glass in.
Sherman Curry doing a great job. Both ends of the floor. On the defensive end early in the ball game, using the leaping ability to block a couple shots and intimidate some people on the offensive end. Then comes down to the offensive glass, gets up on the glass, gets a couple second shots. Big, but that time, Jerry Glover doing a nice job. Strong move to the basket. Took the penetration, took it up strong, and converted the deuce.
Wright State deciding not to make contact with Glover. It is 31-21. Pardon over for Yeagle, back for Pardon. Now Ryan Gross will play baseline for Sherman Curry and give it up to the big man Rogers. Nice cut, and we've got a foul. And a nice play, a little give and go from Rogers to Gross.
Well, a nice little three-man game by the big man for Wright State that time. Ryan Gross, Sherman Curry, Marvin Rogers. Nice little bounce passes there. Marvin, good entry pass. Ryan Gross taking it strong, drawing the foul. That's the kind of shot the Raiders need to get. Every time down they can get it. It just takes patience.
Gross will ace the first, second foul on Dan Shell. And Ryan Gross making his first free throw of the year.
And number 25, Curtis Jillian.
Second one up, a little short, and rebounded underneath by Aaron Brown. 32-21. We've got under 90 seconds to play, first half. Across the way to a waiting Brown. Brown gives it up for Glover. Baseline move, and the kick out again for Brown. They play the two-man on the right side. Borovich for Glover. And we've got a whistle. Wright State clapping their hands. They like this one. Or do they?
Foul is on number 30, Sherman Curry.
Fouls on Curry away from the ball. His third foul of the half, and that's not a good sign.
Well, and that time Sherman trying to fight through a screen. Ed Schilling not real happy about the call. A lot of screens early in this ball game. Both of these teams like to run a lot of screens. They like to free people up. And I think that time Ed Schilling just a little concerned that, maybe that wasn't called the same way some other plays have been called. But, to get through screens, you don't always necessarily want to fight through them. It's not WWF out here. You got to use your feet and work around them. And working around screens is teamwork.
Borovich, 1 of 2 from the charity stripe tonight, will knock down his second. All his scoring from the charity stripe tonight. And a timeout called by the Chippewas. They want to talk over some strategy and how they want to play the last 67 seconds of this first half, and they are down by 10.
Well, and I really wouldn't be surprised. Normally you would think that's kind of a questionable time to take a timeout. You've got your free throw shooter on the line. Seemingly you call a timeout, you ice him a little bit, but coming out of a free throw is a very, very good time to employ some full court pressure, and I would not be surprised at all if that's what Jay Smith is going to do here. The last 67 seconds of the half, try and get a couple easy steals, maybe get back in this ball game. Right now they're down 10. Very, very good time to jump right up. You've got all your people right in the paint. You can jump into your press very quickly, and hopefully Wright State is prepared for this.
Here's a second free throw put up and in. All net and 3 points for Borovich. And pressure in the backcourt, as you had mentioned, Mark.
The only pressure, just man-to-man pressure on the point guard.
Pardon with the lane and gives up for Marvin Rogers. Pardon looking to run some clock. We've got 18 on the shot clock. And a whistle call turned over to Central Michigan.
That time 5-second call. Brandon's got to do a better job using his players. He's got to get the basketball and he's got to move it around. That time just beating too much air out of the basketball with the dribble.
John Borovich at the point. Looking baseline, puts it up. It's knocked out of bounds, but it'll still be a Central Michigan possession. Marvin Rogers made like a brick wall and just stood there.
Well, that time he and Ryan Gross doing a nice job coming over on the help side on the defense. And
still awaiting the inbounds from the Chippewas.
well, and I think that time a little extracurricular activity between Curtis Gillian of Central Michigan and Marvin Rogers, both fighting for position. Those kind of things will happen, but referee's doing a nice job. And there you see Curtis Gillian. He's the guy that lost his head. Little forearm shot to the back of Marvin Rogers, and Glenn Horner doing a nice job right there. Just a terrible lack of judgment. I mean, you get warned by an official, and then 5 seconds later you commit a flagrant foul and throw a forearm in somebody's back. You know, if I'm Jay Smith, I got to sit Curtis Gillian down and say, Curtis, what are you thinking about?
A technical foul, and Marvin Rogers to the charity stripe. Marvin shooting a team 76%. And a brick off the front of the rim. But a technical foul, and Wright State will get a possession here with just under 41 seconds left to play, and they can really run down the clock and really make it difficult for Central Michigan to score.
Well, and Curtis Gillian over there, I think, getting a little talking to from head coach Jay Smith. You know, when you get warned by an official's not going to turn his back. He's going to keep his eye on him. That's just basic. You got to understand that. And that time, Curtis, a little bit of a brain cramp, and that cost his team.
Rogers gets his 4th point of the game, 1 of 2 from the stripe, and the give goes to Pardon. And you can bet he's taking his time now. Now moving up ahead, right forecourt, and the give up high for Yeagle. Nearly lost his balance, now has nowhere to go. Central Michigan wanted a walk, and Rogers has it. And taken away, a miscommunication. Here's Borovich to the hoop, no good, and a whistle call. And Ed Schilling is in a state of disbelief.
Well, you know, I'm the type of person, I always look for a cause of what the cause of that problem was. And the cause, again, Jeff, was the offensive end of the floor. Wright State just lollygagging, tossing the ball around. They take it. There you see Central Michigan taking it in transition. There's Brandon. He's stepping in. Players taking off. That's a good call. In my book, that's a good call. You created the problem on the offensive end of the floor, and then you left yourself. You know, Brandon's a man on an island down here. He's Gilligan. He's got nothing else to do but try and step in and take the charge, and he gets the foul.
Well, it looked like he was going to get hammered, so he decided to take a step back and take the blocking call. Shell checks out of the game, and Curtis Gillian, who was guilty of the technical just a second ago, will re-enter. Borovich eyeing for his 5th point. He doesn't get it in the rebound to Steve Yeagle.
Now the Raiders with 16 seconds left on the clock here to final out the first half. Got to do a good job of getting a good shot.
We've got a whistle call. Some hand checking going on from number 22, Luke Johnson. We haven't heard much from him tonight.
Well, you know, and really not a bad foul that time. Brandon Pardon had a step on Luke Johnson and turned the corner on him, and not in the bonus situation, so he goes ahead, takes the foul. Now Wright State again, you know, the pressure of the clock that time, and Nomade not knowing what to do with the basketball, put both paws on it, double dribble, so 5.8 seconds left, 3/4 court to go. Central Michigan got a chance to score.
Borovich to give off the shot for 3 from Johnson, and he'll knock it down. And time will run out here in this first half. Your score at intermission, it's Wright State 33, Central Michigan 27. Halftime festivities coming up, and we'll be back in just a moment. It's halftime out at the Irvin J. Nutter Center, and Wright State leads Central Michigan 33-27 with Mark Vest. I'm Geoff Kim, and welcome back to Media One. Bob Jones is our director, and we're glad to have you along for this game tonight. Going over some of the scoring, Jerry Glover for Central Michigan has 3 points. Ryan Jansen has a pair. John Borovich has 4 points. Luke Johnson had the 3 at the end of the half. He has 3 points. Dan Shell has 4 points and 11 points to lead everybody for Aaron Brown on the strength of 3 threes. For Wright State, 5 points for Keon Brooks, 9 to lead the team for Steve Yeagle, 6 for Sherman Curry, 5 points for Brandon Pardon, 4 points for Marvin Rogers, 1 for Thad Burton, 2 for Steno Koss, and a point for Ryan Gross. And Mark, to be honest here, really not shooting all that well, but it's enough because they've got some balance.
Well, that's exactly right. And there you see the team halftime statistics. Central Michigan shooting 31%, 8 out of 26 from the field. The Raiders 41%. From the three-point arc, Wright State doing a nice job, 50%, 5 out of 10, 4 out of 12 for 33% for the Chippewas. And from the free throw stripe, 58% for Central Michigan and 50% from the Raiders. So if there's one probably downside of the first half, free throw shooting. But, you know, if I'm Ed Schilling, I look at this half, I'm up 6, I'm playing on my home floor. Thad Burton, Keon Brooks only played 6 minutes in the first half. You got to be comfortable with it. Obviously, there's some adjustments you have to make at halftime, but things have to look good. Both those players now kind of out of the foul trouble doghouse, so to speak. They start out the second half with 2 apiece, but, you know, again, you got to be positive about what happened in the first half.
The ball's to John Borovich, and we're underway in the second half. Back up high for Jerry Glover, and a swarming defense put up by Wright State. They've been going to the ball very well so far. It's blocked, deflected, and Wright State will take possession. Here's Keon.
Well, and again, another defensive deflection. That time, Brandon Pardon, not the long bounce pass you want to make. Thad Burton.
No, in and out. Got everything but the basket.
Thad really struggling offensively so far this afternoon. He's getting decent shots. He just can't knock them down. He's got to keep firing.
Luke Johnson back up high for Jerry Glover. Puts it on the floor. In the pass baseline, they move it back up top. Nice motion. Here's a shot. It's off the glass, and the rebound goes to Sherman Curry.
When the Raiders defensively here in the early part of the second half, a lot of pressure trying to turn up the tempo, get the crowd back in the game, and that time Thad dribbles it right off his foot.
Nice recovery by Brandon Pardon. Freshman from Van Wert moves on over to the right forecourt, and the feed down low, and we've got a whistle and a traveling violation on Thad Burton.
Thad really struggling on the offensive end. You know, now he's to the point where he's really starting to press. He's starting to force things. They get the ball into him. That time he had his head down, but bound and determined to put it up and turns the basketball over with the traveling call. Just has to let the ball game come to him.
Johnson over for Borovich. And a nice shot off glass, and it's 33-29, a 4-point Raider lead.
Well, that time Brandon Pardon didn't get any backside help. He kept looking for it and looking for it. Comes right back down. Sherman Curry not looking at the basketball. You know, regardless of whether Brandon threw the ball too early or whatever, you got to keep your eyes on the basketball. And that time Sherman, I'm not sure what he's looking at, but the basketball wasn't one of them.
Well, the communication on the passing game has been pretty regular tonight. Here's a shot off glass and in. Luke Johnson get his 5th point, and it's a 2-point ball game, and the Chippewas have something to prove here in the second half. We've got a whistle and a timeout charged to Wright State. It's a 20. So far, a nice little 4-point run to start out the second half for the Chippewas, and they certainly have something to prove after getting beat at their own home place in the first game of the year.
Well, they lost by 10 to Mount Pleasant earlier in the season, as you mentioned, and you know, a little revenge factor, I think, for the Chippewas, and they're coming out here in the second half, and you know, an old adage is the most important part of the game is the first 5 minutes of the second half, where you come out, you establish this is the kind of game we want to play, this is the tempo we want to play at. So far, Central Michigan has had the upper hand in determining what that tempo is going to be.
Keon the inbound to Curry, over for Koss. High post turnaround. Jay, it's short. And Thad Burton fought for the rebound, perhaps over the back. Jerry Glover in the middle of that, too.
Well, tough shot right that time for Steno. You know, they faked the little handoff to the guard coming off the pick at the high post, and Steno just spins at the free throw line and throws up a jumper. You got to look for better shots, especially when you have seemingly a height advantage here. You're on your home floor. You have to make Central Michigan play defense.
Curry, shot's no good. Wright State will track it down. Nice play, Steno Koss. Keon over for his running mate at guard, Brandon Pardon. The feed down low. Thad Burton looking baseline, puts it up. No good. We've got a whistle.
And again, Central Michigan doing a nice job defensively, using the baseline as an additional defender. And Thad trying to force it, took it too deep down into the baseline and had nowhere to go with it and turned the basketball over.
Shell thought about the three. We've got a whistle away from the ball. It's against the Chippewas, and Wright State will go on offense.
45, Aaron.
Aaron Brown away from the ball. Some contact, some extracurriculars.
Both of these teams really not doing a very good job of playing a clean basketball game. You got 17 turnovers for Wright State, 13 for Central Michigan.
Glover a kick ball, and it's going to be a possession for Wright State. Keon to inbound, right in front of us. Hello, folks at home. Here's Parton. Nice play for Sherman Curry as he slams it home, and Wright State gets on the board here in the second half.
Just an explosive move that time by Sherman Curry. That's what they need out of Sherman. Get on the baseline and use that jumping ability just to terrorize other teams, and he did it right there.
Oh, nice feed down to Luke Johnson cutting to the hoop, and it's once again a two-point game, 35-33.
And you got to give a lot of credit to Central Michigan. You know, at the end of the first half, they were down 10. They turned that. Brandon comes back and knocks down another three.
Well, there you go. He was wide open off the right wing, and it's 38-33.
Central Michigan came down at the end of the first half and got back in the basketball game as Wright State commits another foul. But Central Michigan, Jeff, doing a nice job of taking the ball to the basket. Every time offensively here in the second half where they've come down and capitalized, they're taking it to the glass. And I think Jay Smith, I'm sure, is telling his guys, hey, they got some foul trouble in there. And, you know, if they're going to block it, there you see taking it strong. And, you know, I've always been a proponent. If somebody's going to block my shot, they're going to block it. But I'm not going to let them block it because they think they can and just stay away from the basket. You take it to the glass and you make them prove it. And that time they do it and they draw the foul.
Johnson gets them both, and we're to a 38-35 game in favor of Wright State. Here's Parton, strong to the basket, puts it up, no good. And the rebound down low from Dan Shell. Up ahead, and Luke Johnson off glass, no good. But the follow by his running mate, John Borovich, will get this to a one-point game. It's 38-37.
Well, right now, Jeff, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say what's happening here. Wright State's getting outplayed. Plain and simple, outplayed.
Thad Burton in the paint, yes. That one hung up there for a proverbial eternity, and it's once again a three-point game.
Well, Thad needed that one.
And off glass again, Luke Johnson, and they can't allow those backdoor cuts to continue.
Well, no, they really can't. That time, just poor team defense. You know, when you go back on defense, the impact of switching defenses is supposed to be on the other team. I think what happened that time, Wright State was attempting to switch a defense that maybe only three guys knew about or knew what was going on. And you got, you know, half of your team caught in one defensive set and the other guys caught in something else, and that leaves somebody wide open. Chippewas doing a nice job of recognizing it and putting the ball in the hole.
Well, we've got a timeout on the floor with 15:49 left to play here in this ball game. It's 40-39, and we'll be back in just a moment. With 15:49 left to play in this ball game, it's a one-point Wright State lead. And can you believe this? Luke Johnson has scored 8 of his 11 here in this first 4 minutes plus of the second half.
Well, and, you know, you have to look back to the final minutes of the first half when Central Michigan really seemed to take over, and they got a lot of things done late in the half, and Wright State throwing the basketball away, didn't capitalize on the opportunities they had at the end of the first half. Central Michigan got back in and turned it to a 6-point deficit at the half, and they've come out early in the second half and have kept right up with that same intensity. So Chippewas doing a nice job. You really have to give a lot of credit to Jay Smith and his coaching staff because they've made the adjustments. In the first half, they were settling for perimeter shots, but here in the second half, everything seems to be a layup and high percentage.
1 point Wright State lead. The inbound to be triggered from Keon Brooks. Over for Stenocost, back up high. Brandon Parton, right forecourt. Over for Keon, baseline J, no good. It's off glass. And Wright State, can't track it down. It was just underneath the legs of Brandon Parton.
Well, Keon that time, I think, really trying to force something to get his offensive game on track. So far in the game, he's only attempted 6 shots. He's made 2 of those, and 5 total points and 2 fouls. As we mentioned, he sat out 14 minutes in the first half in foul trouble, trying to stay away from that 3rd foul. But, you know, Keon needs a big second half, which he's done so many times, and Sherman Curry comes back, answers with a nice little kiss off the glass.
Nice assist from Brandon Parton. It's 42-39. Borovich looking over towards the corner. Now the give back his way. Oh, nice baseline feed, but nowhere to go. And the follow by Aaron Brown rejected, and here comes Wright State. Here's Keon in traffic, and a walk.
Bad decision by Keon that time. He had 2 players, and he's thinking, I've got to get the shot off. I've got to get the shot off. I've been there many a time, but you have to let your head. You got to play with your head, not with your heart, because that time he's thinking so hard, I got to score, I got to score. Made a bad decision, turned the basketball over.
Here's look, baseline, up, no good, and the rebound for Thad Burton.
Raiders dodged a bullet that time. Chippewas doing a nice job. Entry pass down to the baseline, nice little 8-foot chip shot, and they missed it.
We got a whistle down underneath, and the foul is on number 25, Curtis Gillian. He was down there trying to block Thad Burton out on the low block.
Foul is on number 25, Curtis Gillian. His second, the team's fourth.
Curtis Gillian down on the block, trying to battle with Thad Burton, and that's one that you're not going to win too many times. And Thad playing strong on the block, but Curtis drawing the foul.
Harden up high. Over for Sherman Curry, who's shown pretty good strength coming back in this first game. Harden, the feed down low for Curry, in and out. To follow, yes. Well, he gets it to flush. And it's 44-39.
Sherman Curry coming in tonight for Ed Chilling, coming up big. That's one of those situations right there where I think Tim Kistner thought he had somebody standing over there. You know, 9 times out of 10, you come down, that's a set you're in, there's going to be somebody there, but he turns and throws it, and nobody there.
Must have thought his head coach was a player. Here's Burton over for Parton. Thought about the 3, now looking baseline. The kick out for Keon Brooks. High post, puts it up, no good, and a foul. Down underneath, and it's going to go on John Borovich.
Well, and that's where Keon is so tough to defend. He can put the ball on the floor, and then when he decides he's going up with the shot, he can really elevate. That time, he just too much pressure on the defensive player, and he drew the foul.
Second foul on Borovich. 15th foul for Central Michigan. Non-shooting foul.
Borovich at 6'1", just can't compete with the athleticism of Keon, and Keon took advantage of it.
Harden looking baseline, double team to fight for it, and it's taken away. Here comes Luke Johnson. Here comes Central Michigan. Shell thought about the 3, now the give back up high. Ryan Jansen puts it on the floor.
Central Michigan with a 3-guard type offense, and even the players inside, not a whole lot of size, but do a nice job of moving the ball around.
Here's a shot for 3. It is a little wide, and Sherman Curry the rebound. Harden driving strong. Keon, baseline, pulls it up, and a little short, but he'll go home. Keon has his 7th point of the night, and it's a 46-39 lead for Wright State. Turnaround Jay in the lane, no good, and a fight for it. Thad Burton thought he had it, but he'll give it up for Brandon Parton.
Physical nature of this game, Jeff, really starting to pick up. These two teams starting to realize, hey, this is a part of the game where we really have to take control, and Thad doing that off the glass.
Nice off-balance rebound, and Keon has it. We'll give it up for Parton, and they'll slow things up just a little bit. Steno for Burton for Parton. Waiting on the 5-second count. Now we'll go baseline, the give across the way. Now the kick out. Sherman Curry for 3. It is good, and the foul. Oh my. And we've got an injured Chippewa down on the floor. Some major contact underneath the basket. It looks to be Aaron Brown holding his head. This is not good.
Well, you know, the last 2 times down, there have been a lot of jawing, a lot of pushing and shoving going on with both teams. And I think that time, if we can see a replay, Thad Burton, I think, threw an elbow. And, you know, regardless of what team you're on, see that, I've been around Wright State basketball for a long time, Jeff, but that kind of stuff right there, to be honest, is garbage. And, you know, you hate to see something like that happen. Thad's a good enough player. He doesn't need to resort to that. there's a little bit of jawing going on up and down the floor, but that's the kind of thing that's going to get somebody hurt.
And you don't want to escalate this into more than what it should be, and it's just a game. It is simply just a game. Aaron Brown took a nasty hit from the elbow of Thad Burton, and I don't think the officials really caught on to that.
Well, I know one of the officials saw it, and those are the type of shots right there and the intensity that, me as an ex-Wright State player, you always have your kind of your Wright State family. We're probably critical upon the players that play each year and, each subsequent group of guys that comes in here. But, I just hope that's the kind of intensity that Thad Burton and his teammates will show, when they go to East Lansing. And when they go to places like the UD Arena, you would just hope that they would show that kind of intensity on the floor in those situations. But, right there, that's just premeditated elbow right to the face. And
Burton is subject of some contact from Tim Kistner. And to be honest, that elbow to the head could have been construed as a retaliatory move. It's like, hey, you bumped me out of my position, I'll get one of your guys.
Well, and players of all ages and, of all skills, you're going to be in games where people are going to come after you. People are going to try and push you out of the game. They're going to try and intimidate you. But the minute that you answer, this was always my opinion, the minute that somebody like a Thad Burton answers with a shot like that, you've got Thad right where you want him.
Brent Larson in the game, shooting some technical foul shots. They flag Burton on that one, and he makes 1 of 2 off the front of the rim. And we've got a 20-second timeout charged to Central Michigan. And then simply they got to try and regroup here. They're down 9, but momentum has clearly swung the way of the Raiders. Sherman Curry has done quite a job tonight. He has really made a difference here in the second half.
Well,
15 points.
He really has. Sherman, the one thing about Sherman that you really got to like is his athleticism. This is a guy, Jeff, that can get up off the floor. And what's very difficult to defend against is he gets up in a hurry. He had a dunk early in the first half, which it looked like he started from 8 or 10 feet away from the basket and just exploded. So difficult to defend against somebody like that. Sherman has really come into his own here tonight. He's a guy that they've kind of missed, and boy, he's come out tonight big.
They really have missed him, of course. Those 2 tough losses on the road. Wright State here at home and trying to start a winning streak, as it were. Here's Kistner with the ball. Back up high for Larson. Now they play it across the way down to Borovich, or rather Johnson. Luke Johnson has had a strong second half. And they give back up. Keep it out on the perimeter with 14 on the shot clock.
Raiders switch back into a matchup zone with a lot of pressure on the basketball. Brandon Parton doing a nice job of keeping the ball on one side of the floor or the other, not allowing Central Michigan.
The trigger for 3, and it's no good. And Wright State the rebound, Marvin Rogers.
Marvin that time a nice job getting the body, boxing out, and then using his size to go and get the basketball.
Parton with the ball, moving right forecourt. The feed to the basket for Steno Kos, puts it up off glass and in.
Nice little lob that time, and Steno doing a nice job of gathering the ball and not rushing the shot, realizing where he was on the floor and then knocking down the easy little chippy.
Chippewas trying to come back from an 11-point deficit. Here's a shot for 3, baseline, it's no good. High hop, and the rebound, Marvin Rogers. Backcourt pressure being applied, but Parton will easily break it. Baseline look for Keon Brooks, and we've got a whistle on the way to the basket. Looks like contact down with Tim Kistner.
Well, and Keon, again, we mentioned earlier on, with his quickness and his athleticism, very difficult to defend Keon on a baseline.
And with that, it's a timeout on the floor. 11:22 left to play in this ball game. It's 51-40, and we'll be back in just a moment. With Mark Vest, I'm Geoff Kim. Thanks for joining us on Media One. The Wright State Raiders leading Central Michigan by a score of 51-40, and it has been, or it has rather become, the Sherman Curry Show.
Well, it really has, and Wright State needed somebody to step up in the first half. Keon Brooks, Marvin Rogers both spending a lot of time on the bench. Thad Burton spent a lot of time in foul trouble. They needed somebody to step up, and The answer to that was Sherman Curry. He stepped up 7 for 11 from the field, 1 out of 1 from the three-point arc, 15 points so far tonight to go along with 6 rebounds. So Sherman has come in and had a nice ball game.
And Wright State showing some confidence on offense now, shooting close to 46%, and that is as high as they've shot all night. Looking over some other numbers, Luke Johnson and Aaron Brown each have 11 points for the Chippewas, but of course the game high 15 for Sherman Curry. Wright State still having some problem with the turnovers, and perhaps they really need to get the hands, or rather the ball on the hands of the point guard, Brandon Parton. They certainly are missing Tony Balltrip tonight.
Well, they really are. 19 turnovers with still 11 minutes and 22 seconds left in the ball game. 19 is obviously too many, but that's something that it will come with confidence, it will come with experience, but you got to handle the basketball. As Marvin Rogers doing a nice job on the offensive glass.
Puts it up in. Marvin Rogers. 6 points for him, and it's 53-40.
Raiders again switching out of the man-to-man defense and going into it looks like a matchup zone defense with a lot of pressure from the three players in the guard position. If Brandon gets in the passing lane.
Taken away by the Raiders. Here's the fade for Keon. No good, but the rebound down low, yes! Nice stick back from Marvin Rogers. 8 points for the big man, and it's now a 15-point lead, the biggest lead for the Raiders.
That's the intensity that you have to see out of Marvin Rogers. You know, when he plays with intensity, that's the kind of thing that he can bring to the table. And you know, when he can get up and down the floor and follow up second shots on fast breaks, that's big for the big man.
Jerry Glover, and they look into the paint. Now the shot for 3, and it is knocked down by Tim Kistner.
Now, it's coming into this game tonight, Tim Kistner, 63% from behind the arc, so he's a guy who can knock it down in that time. A lot of string music.
Well, as they say, 63%, that's just getting it done. Yeagle with the ball over for Parton. And Yeagle has shown up pretty big here, at least in the first half, and has helped the Raiders gain some confidence tonight. Here's Keon over for Yeagle, turnaround Jay, baseline, strong, and taken away by Central Michigan.
Tough shot that time for Steve. Turnaround jumper on the baseline. I think he realized somebody's coming for the shot.
Glover the 3, he'll knock it down. And Central Michigan has scored 6 in a row. It's 55-46.
Well, and the perimeter shooting is starting to come up big for the Chippewas. And Wright State has to be able to recover to those shooters.
Marvin Rogers with the ball, puts it on the floor. And back up high for Brandon Parton. Steno Koss nearly lost a handle on it. Now will go to the basket, puts it up, no good, but the whistle on the way.
Nice quick reaction by Steno that time. Took his eye off the basketball, and Brandon delivered it to him. And Steno able to come up with the basketball, then turn and go strong. Took it to the glass. He's going to go to the free throw line for 2.
Dan Shell guilty of the foul, his 4th, team 7th.
There's Keon taking a baseline. Tough to defend down on the baseline. So quick, elevates so quickly, and can shoot the basketball. Tough to defend. Steno
at the stripe, and he'll knock down the first. Steno shooting a hair under 42% on the season from the charity stripe.
Central Michigan back with another wholesale substitution, included in that Aaron Brown. Nice to see him check back into the ballgame after taking the elbow from Thad Burton. Obviously not too badly hurt. Shake out the cobwebs and get back out on the hardwood.
Koss gets them both. And Bruno Petersons will check in for Steno Koss. Bruno getting some minutes, and you know, I think that's the one thing you got to like about Coach Ed Schilling and his strategy this year, showing minutes to a lot of his guys.
Well, and a lot of these guys are so new. I mean, you've got a whole laundry list of people who are in the first year in this program. And Central Michigan, again, just shredding the interior defense, of which Bruno is a new addition. And got to get hands on that. That ball should not go through there untipped.
Aaron Brown has 3 points. Here's a shot for 3, and is short. And the rebound for Central Michigan.
Well, and that's a situation there where they say Marvin can knock down a 3 and all that, but got to get a better shot.
Here's a shot for 3. Jerry Glover missed it, but the foul, and I guess he'll go to the line for 3.
Well, and again, I think that was a foul on Marvin, fouling a 3-point shooter. And you know, most teams, Jeff, are not going to shoot that well from the 3-point arc consistently. Central Michigan 36%. Wright State 28% from behind the three-point arc. So, Cardinal sin is to foul the guy.
It's out of bounds. We'll see the position. It'll go to Wright State. A nice bit of defense for the Raiders.
Well, good thought that time by John Borovich. Excellent cross-court pass, diagonal right in. That's one of those passes that everybody else thinks, I can't believe he threw that and got it through. But, they've had some luck with those diagonal passes from out on the perimeter down into the block, so people need to keep their eyes about them.
Well, Wright State has kept the back door open. The feed down low for Peterson's turn around. Shea, no good, but a whistle.
Good strong move that time by Bruno.
Peterson's going to head to the line. And the foul is on number 25, Curtis Gillian.
There you see Bruno. Didn't have to fight too much for the position. Curtis Gillian comes over at the last minute. Got to get the hand straight up. Came down on Bruno a little bit. Bruno strong, goes up for the shot. He's going to go to the free throw line for two, where so far this year, 57%.
Puts it up and in. Bruno Peterson's the 7-foot freshman out of West Chicago. He went to Wheaton High School. And one of a bunch of good-looking newcomers to this Wright State Raider team this year.
Well, and as you mentioned just a couple of moments ago, a lot of these guys getting a lot of quality playing time. And that's the only way you get better, and that's the only way that Ed Schilling can really judge what kind of talent he's got out there, is to get these guys in the ballgame.
There are points for Peterson's. It's 59-48. And taken away by Sherman Curry. Looking for Keon Brooks, but a nice bounce pass to Marvin Rogers. The feed for Curry. Slam dunk. Oh, my. Well, it wasn't pretty, but they got it done.
Well, a lot of good hands that time. Keon bobbles it, gets it back. Marvin doing a nice job handling the basketball, dumps it off to Sherman. And so far tonight, we know what we're getting for Sherman.
There's the put up off glass and a nice score for Ed Carter. His first points of the night, and it's 61-50. Here's Peterson's other end, no good. Strong off the rim, and the rebound to Jerry Glover.
Well, and I'm sure when the season is over, Bruno's going to be on the weights, and he's going to get stronger. And next year when he gets a pass like that, not going to be any little 3-foot hook shot. That ball's going down hard.
With 7:32 left to play in this ball game, Wright State by 11. It's 61-50. We'll take a timeout right here and come back to you in just a moment. $61-50 is your score. Here at the Irvin J. Nutter Center, we've got 7:32 left to play in this ball game, and Wright State's starting to find a little bit of momentum. However, they haven't been consistent about it, and they are still leaving an opening for the Chippewas.
Well, they really are. They've had a couple chances to really put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, and they really haven't taken advantage of it. But Raiders here in the second half, Jeff, doing a much better job of taking care of the basketball. Halftime, they had 14 turnovers, and now we're 13 and a half minutes into the second half, and they've only committed 5 more. So doing a much better job of taking care of the basketball, getting better shots, getting out of transition for easy shots like we just saw from Sherman Curry.
And it has been a strong return for Mr. Curry, 17 points to leave all scores. And he had been out for a couple games with a left knee. Well, I'll tell you what, that left knee is looking pretty good tonight.
Well, and he's one of those guys that he can take a game over on both ends of the floor with his leaping ability, his agility, his long arms. Defensive end, he can tip the ball, he can reject shots. Then on the offensive end, he explodes at the basket. So Sherman really having an outstanding afternoon for Ed Schilling and his staff.
Here's the inbound over towards the far baseline. We got a whistle. A lot of traffic down underneath. And Marvin Rogers guilty of the foul. Raiders have kept out of foul trouble so far in this half, and it has been to their advantage. Brown thought about the three, passes it up, and taken away from Keon Brooks. Keon in the lane, the give off, and nowhere to go with Marvin Rogers on the baseline. He'll kick it back up high. Here's Pardon. Nice no-look pass to Sherman Curry. It's out of bounds, but it'll be a Wright State possession.
Well, in that time, Marvin Rogers doing a nice job of just taking the ball out top, taking a couple dribbles, let everybody reset and balance the floor, get something where they can get a decent shot.
Peterson's, and this one nearly deflected out, but Pardon has it. Peterson's to the hoop and is slammed away and taken away by Central Michigan.
Well, and again, Bruno that time just a little physically overmatched. Couldn't finish.
There's a shot for three. It is short, and a fight for it out on the floor, and Central Michigan's Ed Carter comes away with it. Keep it out on the rotation. There's a shot for three. Baseline, no good. And Wright State will recover, and Brandon Pardon has it.
Well, and Central Michigan really going with the small lineup now, Jeff. They've got 4 players on the floor, 6'3" or smaller.
Nice defense from Central Michigan, though there is contact down low with Keon Brooks. Here's the move to the basket, up and in. Tim Kistner scores his 5th point, and it's 61-52. We're back to under 10.
Well, and Central really doing a good job offensively. You know, I mentioned they've got a small lineup out there, but these guys are fearless. They take it right to the hole, as Tim Kistner did, and he took it to the glass and converted.
Rogers double team, puts it up, yes.
Good patience with the move that time by Marvin. He recognized where the pressure was coming from. Couple fakes, knocked it down.
The kick out. Here's a shot for three, and it is knocked down by Jerry Glover.
Boy, you really got to like the poise and the patience of these Central Michigan Chippewas as Brandon Pardon taps the shoulders to take the 20-second timeout and regroup. But really got to like the way they move the basketball. Very unselfish.
They certainly have, and of course, Glover's starting to show up here in the second half. He has 9 points. And we've seen some balanced scoring from the Chippewas, as we had seen in the first half initially from Wright State. They've gotten away from it a little bit. Sherman Curry leading the way, but Marvin Rogers starting to back up and really come alive in the second half. He's got 10 points.
Well, and Marvin sat out the first half, the majority of the first half, for the disciplinary reasons of being late for today's shoot-around. But, you know, he's come on in the second half, and he's let the game come to him. I think right when he first got in the game this afternoon, he was trying to press a little bit and thought he could just jump right into the ballgame, which you can't do. So he's come on in the second half. Sherman has continued to do what he did in the first half, and the Raiders, so far, a nice outing.
Curry to trigger to Pardon. Directing traffic as we've got 5:25 left to play ball game. Rogers with the ball. Thad Burton now over for Brandon Pardon. And across the way for Marvin Rogers, and the shot is good. He knocked down the three off the left wing. It is 66-55. Here's the pull-up. Jay is up, no good. Fight for it underneath, and it'll go the other way. Curry was tapped in the back.
And the thing that you can see now on the offensive end for Wright State is they're getting what they want. They're getting what their offense is designed to get. That time, they ran a little play where Marvin Rogers goes away, spots up on the arc. They throw the skip pass across the top, executed it perfectly. Marvin knocks down a three, whereas in the first half, they would just run around doing a lot of things and saying, boy, I hope we get a good shot. If you execute well and do the things that you want to do, you'll get good shots like that, and the Raiders doing a nice job executing on the offensive end of the floor.
Sherman Curry shooting 60% from the line will miss the front end of the 1-and-1, and he'll come back the other way. Here come the Chippewas. Here's Jerry Glover in traffic, and will give it up. Wright State swarming up high. Nice baseline move, and the feed in the paint is good. Nice move for Tim Kistner as he fed Aaron Brown all alone. And it's 66-57.
And typical example right there. Good things happen when you get penetration. Marvin Rogers came out, played a little paratrooper defense. Kistner went right around him, drew the defense, dumped it off. Wright State got a good shot.
High post shot is no good, and they'll head the other way. Keon Brooks, a nice high dribble to set up the jump shot, and the fans here don't like the call.
Well, that's another thing you get when you've got a smaller lineup. You know, you've got defensive people now who can move their feet and they can take charges. Keon used to going in there and having a big guy who can't step over and get in front of him, but Central Michigan with the small lineup able to play good defense on the interior.
Rovich over for Glover. Thought about the three. Now they keep it back up high for Kistner. In traffic, guarded heavily by Brandon Pardon with 11 on the shot clock. The give off for Ed Carter now the give back up high. Shot put up, no good. And Central Michigan will get a fresh 35. Here's the feed and in. Aaron Brown gets the deuce. He has scored 17 points tonight, and it is 66-59.
Well, in Central Michigan, you gotta really like the way they play offense. You know, they don't dribble the ball, a lot of passes, moving without the basketball. Then they come down to the other end, play tough defense. Jay Smith really has to be happy with his team's performance in the second half.
Ball is out of bounds, but we have an official timeout with 3:35 left to go. It's the home stretch for the Raiders. They lead it 66-59, and we'll be back in just a moment. 66-59 as we come down the home stretch with Mark Vest. I'm Geoff Kim. Thanks for joining us on Media One. And we have seen the Aaron Brown show. He's taken over a bit here and late in the second half.
Well, he really has. And, you know, Central Michigan just not going to go away. Very, very tough, disciplined team. They're not going to beat themselves. They're always going to be in a position to win. And, you know, I'm sure if you asked Jay Smith before this game started and said, Coach, you know, if you can be with 3.5 minutes left, 7 points down, would you take it? And I think he'd take it every time. They're in a very good position to win right now. And Wright State has given them every opportunity to stay in the basketball game. When you're on your home floor, you have a chance to put people away. You got to put them away. The longer that you let that team play, the better chance they have. So Chippewas, to their credit, have done a nice job in hanging in this contest.
Chippewas shooting 40% from the field tonight. However, Wright State shooting just a hair over 46%. But here's been the big saving grace. They are 8 of 16 for 50% from behind the three-point arc. Curry to trigger, and he'll do so for Brandon Pardon. Final 3.5 minutes left to go in this ball game. Nearly taken away and taken away. We've got a jump ball.
Well, that time the Raiders just trying to do too much in too little space. They throw the ball to the perimeter out on the key. They cut somebody through and they drop it to the baseline. That time, not enough baseline left. Need to do a better job of putting their players in a position where they can do something. You don't want to throw him the ball when he's trapped in the corner.
Pardon over for Keon Brooks. He'll trigger that three, and it is short, partially blocked, and here comes Central Michigan. Ed Carter on over the way. Borovich thought about the three, now up high. Here's a shot for three. It's in and out, and the rebound to big Marvin Rogers. Pardon with the ball, left forecourt, back up high for Curry. Curry with it now, over for Thad Burton, looking to post up. We've got a whistle and a foul.
If we could see a replay of that, Jeff, that was one of the more obvious holds that I've seen in a long time. You could see the jersey of Thad Burton. If we can see it from the backside, there you can see the jersey being tugged on right there. And, you know, Jerry Glover turns around to the official and says, "Why me?" which every player will do. You know, there's never been a player to play the game that's ever committed a foul. But, you know, right there, I think Jerry kind of has to turn around and say, you know, you caught me with my hand in the cookie jar, so to speak, and probably not a bad foul.
Thad will get the first of two, and that's amazing how you can catch something that quick there. The obvious foul, and who me? Bad eyes the second one, and he will put it up no good, and the rebound by Jerry Glover. And a traveling violation on Glover. He did not get a firm handle on it, and he's trying to argue it, but to no avail, and Wright State will take over on offense.
Well, I think what happened there, Jerry came down on another player's foot and kind of turned his ankle. Sure felt a little twinge and you know, lost his balance a little bit, but he traveled with the basketball. So Jerry going to tighten up the sneaks a little bit and get back at it, but again, another turnover. The 19th for the Chippewas. Wright State winning that battle, the battle you don't want to win. Raiders with 22 turnovers so far tonight.
Here's the inbound to Thad Burton, and he is fouled. Double teamed by Aaron Brown and Tim Kistner.
Foul is on number 30.
Good help that time by Kistner. The Raiders, when they get the ball down in the hole like that, smaller lineup for Central Michigan, they've got to help out. But that time, Tim Kistner slapping down at the ball, takes a chunk out of Thad's arm. Thad to go to the free throw line.
The senior from Columbus will ice the first. And he has had a strong season this year. And Mark, you know, being a big man yourself, how important is it to have a guy who can be a double-digit threat in both points and rebounds? As the second one is up and in.
Well, you know, what it does is it really takes a lot of pressure. You see Aaron Brown come down again, and second player in as many possessions to come down and twist an ankle for Jay Smith's Chippewa crew, but he's going to try and walk it off. But, you know, in response to your question, when you've got somebody who is a force, like a Thad Burton, who's going to average 11 points a game and, you know, 12 or 14 points, that allows your forwards and everybody else to do a little bit more. They don't have to worry so much about running to the backboard to make sure we get rebounds, because you know that Thad's going to be in there and he's going to be banging. So it's good to have somebody in there who's a force.
We've got a whistle, contact, as Kistner was headed to the hoop. Pardon guilty of the foul. Team sixth and Pardon second. And the trigger to come from Dan Shell.
From this point on, Central Michigan will shoot the bonus.
Ed Carter with the ball. Will pull up from 18 and leave it short, nearly a goaltend, but he comes away with it, puts it up, no good. Gets his own mistake, stick back, no good. And a fight for it, and Sherman Curry has it.
Boy, and Ed Carter doing a great job in the paint, getting after the second shots, doing a nice job getting a second rebound for him.
Chippewas move back into a 2-3 zone defense setup. Pardon with the ball, left-handed dribble. And this one poked out of bounds, last touch by Jerry Glover, as it was intended for Keon Brooks. The trigger will come from Curry, over for Pardon. Now he'll get the ball back. Pardon, over for Keon Brooks. Thought about the three, now he'll go for Curry. Pulls it up, baseline, yes.
Goal by
71-59 for Wright State, a 12-point lead. We've got a $1:44 left to play.
Well, and that little dump on the baseline to Sherman has proved to be very beneficial for the Raiders today. Sherman's knocked that one down a few times.
Taken away, nearly taken away. We've got to fight for it on the floor. Sherman Curry comes away with it. Here comes Wright State, and a foul. It's going to be on Shell. Wright State had the numbers moving up front.
Sherman Curry doing a nice job getting on the floor after a loose ball.
Shell will foul the ball game with 4 points. And this looks like the end for Central Michigan.
Immediately following the game, all junior Raiders assemble on the
19 points right now to lead everybody in scoring for Sherman Curry. He is 9 of 13 from the field, and that has really been a significant difference, not just because of the points scored from a player that's been missing the last couple of games, but the field goal percentage is way up there.
Well, he's gotten good shots. He's gotten good shots off the baseline, and when Keon Brooks has a 3 for 10 outing and 0 for 2 from the three-point arc, it's pretty obvious somebody else has got to step up. Thad Burton hasn't really provided much on the offensive end. Thad with 6 points so far and 6 rebounds. Kind of subpar performance for Thad. Marvin Rogers has come on late in the game for 13, but you know, when you're big guns like that, your Keon Brooks, your Thad Burtons, your Marvin Rogers don't come out and put up the numbers, somebody else has got to do it. And luckily, Sherman Curry's been the man to step up.
Well, when these two teams last met back on November 15th, Wright State came away with a 10-point win, 82-72. And in that game, Marvin Rogers had 28 points. Keon had 27 points. And I think coming into this ball game, the Chippewas had to think those were the two guys to lock down on. And thankfully enough, it had been Steve Yeagle early on and Sherman Curry the rest of the way.
Well, and coming into this game, that's the one thing that really concerned me, Jeff, because Central Michigan out-rebounded the Raiders in that game earlier in the season, 47-29, and Wright State got the predominant amount of their scoring from 2 players, as you mentioned, 28 for Marvin Rogers and 27 for Keon Brooks. And I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think that's probably the only time this year that has happened, that those two have scored that many points in a tandem. And you're not going to get that kind of performance consistently. So I was concerned about this Chippewa team coming in tonight after the performance that they had up in Mount Pleasant, Michigan earlier in the year.
Hard off the back of the iron for Keon Brooks as he shoots 1 of 2. Raiders lead it by 12. We've just got 91 seconds left to play. Second one put up, and that'll rattle home. Keon Brooks with 8 points tonight, and it is 72-59. Here's the long three, and it's no good. And Keon Brooks will track it down. For Thad Burton, we've got a whistle. Contact with Aaron Brown. It'll be a Chippewa possession. Up in their front end. And taken away from Curry. A foul, it's on Ed Carter as Brandon Parton was leading the break up ahead.
Well, and right now what the Raiders need to do, it's obvious that Central Michigan down 13 with a minute 19. They got to come after the basketball. They got to take chances. They got to go for steals. Wright State needs to understand that, and they need to be able to be strong with the basketball. And Brandon Parton, strong, bring the ball up the floor that time, but the result not good. You have to knock the free throws down.
73% shooter. The freshman from Van Wert, Ohio, will get another opportunity. He's 0 for 1 tonight, and will get 1 of 2. 73-59. We've got a $1:18 left to play in this ball game. Looking on the baseline, here's another three, and it is off target. And it'll come down. Brandon Parton up ahead for Marvin Rogers. Will have to hold up shop. The feed for Thad Burton is taken away, and here comes Central Michigan. They got numbers 3-on-1, and the basket is good, and we've got a timeout. John Borovich gets the deuce, and a timeout called, and we'll see what Central Michigan can do here in the last 56.5 seconds.
Well, and again, another situation where Central Michigan scores off of a Wright State turnover. You know, when you're going to turn the ball over 24 times like the Raiders have been today, you better make sure people don't score off of them, because if you're giving them that many extra possessions, and like the possession they just gave away there, you throw it away underneath the basket, smaller, quicker team is going to take off and they're going to run, and that's exactly what Central Michigan did there.
And Schilling directing traffic for his Wright State Raiders, looking to break a brief 2-game losing streak. Here's the long bomb pass for Thad Burton. He'll put up and slam it home.
Goal by Thad Burton.
And Ed Schilling beside himself. He wanted to run out the clock, and he'll send Steno Cosson into the ball game.
And what happened right there is Thad, and the same thing happened to Curtis Gillian in the first half. Thad threw the elbow early on. He needs to understand, okay, I threw a cheap shot. Referees are going to be watching me. After that dunk, the first thing Thad did was turn around and taunt the other player and get in his face. You can see Ed Schilling. He is beside himself. I'm sure he is so angry with Thad Burton right now that he cannot even stand it, because there is no reason for that. There's no reason for that kind of garbage. And it's one thing, if I'm a Central Michigan player right now, I'm saying, you taunt people in East Lansing, you taunt people in the crosstown shootout. Thad does not need to play like that. He's a quality player. He needs to keep his head, play the basketball game.
Burton fouls out with 8 points, as Ed Carter missed both of the free throws on the technical end. Here's Jerry Glover up high for Borovich. Borovich in the lane, puts it up off glass and in.
Goal by John.
And yet another timeout charged to the Chippewas. And I don't know, you have to really be concerned with Thad Burton right now. The number of games that he has fouled out this year has been staggering, and we're not even into the conference season yet.
Think about 2 of the fouls. One, a flagrant elbow to somebody's head. The next one, a technical foul for taunting somebody after a dunk that he's already made. That's 2 fouls right there for a guy. He's in the top probably 10 or 15 rebounders in the country. Thad just needs to come to the realization that you're not going to get 11 rebounds a game when you're on the bench. And he needs to understand that his team needs him on the floor. And somebody's going to get 14 points and 12 rebounds a game. It's a very, very beneficial part of your team. But I can guarantee you one thing, Jeff, if there's any scouts sitting in this crowd, they're going to get in Thad Burton's head. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to say, taunt me, big boy. You'll be sitting on the bench. He's got to learn to control that.
This is now the 10th game for the Wright State Raiders this season, and Thad Burton has just fouled out of his 5th. And that's something you just cannot tolerate if you're Coach Ed Schilling.
He's too valuable. It is too valuable to have somebody on the floor with an inside presence like Thad can exude. 12 rebounds, 11 or 12 rebounds a game. A lot of people don't realize how difficult that is to do game in and game out. With the caliber of competition that Wright State's been playing this year, that's getting after it. Rebounding 11, 12 a game is getting after it. You know, and if Thad can keep his head in the ball game, who knows what he can do, but having a big, strong rebounder is a big benefit to your team, and he needs to be on the basketball floor.
The trigger will come from Marvin Rogers. Backcourt pressure shown and a foul. It'll be on Ted Badgett. His first appearance in the ball game. He has appeared in only 2 games prior to this one, and he will get his first foul of the night.
Well, I don't know about you, Jeff, but we can see Ted Badgett right in front of us, and they've got him listed at 6 foot. If he's 6 foot, I'm 7'3".
You know what? I think I'm about as tall as this guy, really.
Yeah. There you can see the only thing that Central Michigan can possibly do, take chances, as we mentioned before, and Ted Badgett, the 5'6", 6-footer, goes after the foul, and you know he did what he was in there to do, go after a steal, and luckily for Wright State and Brandon Parton, he drew the foul.
Parton knocked down the first, and he will get the second. And 11 points tonight for Brandon Parton. And Wright State really balancing out their lineup in points scored. Nearly taken away by Brandon Parton, but taken back by Tim Kistner. Kistner in the lane puts it up, no good. We've got a foul, and it's going to be against Steno Koss.
And that time, Tim Kistner fighting for his life. He got everybody reaching in, knocking the ball away. He maintains the possession. There you see Marvin gets a hand on it. Kistner then takes it strong. That's a good call. Steno's half jumping off the floor. That's a good call.
Koss is first, team 7th, and the free throw will rattle home for Tim Kistner. Kistner entered this ball game shooting 33% from the line, but he has done a little bit better than that tonight. Provided he makes a second one, and he will do so. 7 points for Kistner, and once again a substitution package for Central Michigan.
Well, and Jay Smith back with Todd Simmons, probably one of the bigger players on his team to contest the inbounds pass, and Ted Badgett back for his speed. But
this one deflected out of bounds by Jerry Glover, but it'll still be a Raider possession.
You know, Central's still here, Jeff, with a chance to win this game. There's 36 seconds left.
And we've got a whistle. Keon Brooks fouled by number 20, John Borovich. And really, that's what you expected these last 3 minutes to come down to, fouling and free throws.
Right. If they can get Wright State to the free throw line, Central Michigan, that is, if they can get the Raiders to the free throw line and the Raiders can't capitalize, you know, you're talking about a 12-point lead. Obviously, it's not going to be easy, and stranger things probably haven't happened, but, you know, they got to come down, and that's the way you stop it. You stem the tide, you knock the free throws down. Jay Smith doing everything over on that sideline he can possibly do. Defensive substitutions, running people in and out.
Keon eyeing the second, and he will do so. 10 points for the junior out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. It is 79-65. We got 30 seconds left to play. Here's the baseline. Jay put up off the backboard. No good. We've got a foul and a traveling violation. Both Steno Koss and Keon Brooks were holding onto the ball, but a traveling violation nonetheless. Here's the long three, and it is short, an air ball. Chippewas will hunt it down. Here's another three, and it is long this time. And a foul. This time it's on John Borovich, as Marvin Rogers will now head to the line.
Foul is on number 22, Luke Johnson.
Check that, it's on Luke Johnson. And once again, we continue the garbage time with 17.5 seconds left to play in this ball game. It has been a foregone conclusion. Wright State will re-even their record to 5-5.
Well, this is a win that they really needed to have. It wasn't pretty. They came out, they had to scrap, and they had to earn every bit of it because Central Michigan's a team. It's Marvin not really even close on that free throw, but they had to come out and they had to play hard. But, you know, after the couple tough defeats that they've had here recently, to come home and any way you get a win, the most important thing is that you got a W in the won and lost column.
Burton will not get the second one, and it'll be a Central Michigan possession. Onomi Scotty Mockport checks back on in, and number 33 will see his first action. It's Eddie Chambers, a 5'10 junior out of Dothan, Alabama. Here's the long three, and it is knocked down by Ed Carter. 79-68, the long baseball pass, and it's intercepted. Borovich up ahead. How about the three? Now the reverse J, no good for Jerry Glover, but he'll head to the line.
Well, in that time, Wright State looking for the big kill, throwing it all the way down the floor. You know, all they really did there was kill some clock, but there you see Central Michigan again taking the ball to the basket. Jerry Glover can't get it to fall. That would have been a big hoop for the Chippewas, but down 11 points with under 5 seconds left. Need a miracle at this point.
Well, there's no such thing as an 11-point goal, so Glover gets the first. And he's coming close to his scoring average on the night, 12.5 points. He's got 10. Right-hander eyes it and will make it. And yet another substitution package, and it's been the same as Todd Simmons and Ted Batchett re-enter the ball game for the Chippewas. Marvin Rogers, the long touchdown pass, looking for it and intended for Eddie Chambers.
And you can see Ed Schilling over on the sideline. No clock goes because nobody touches the ball. You know, these are the type of things where you have to learn. You know, you've got 4.5 seconds and you got a 9-point lead. Obviously, Central Michigan not going to come back, but you can't make mistakes like that because if you make a mistake out here, you're going to do it again. Who knows? Next time might be a 2-point game.
Kistner and Carter re-enter the ball game. There's a shot put up in the lane, puts it up, no good, and the follow is in right before the horn. And the final score here at the Irvin J. Nutter Center, the Wright State Raiders come away with a 7-point win. They beat Central Michigan by a score of 79-72. But we'll come back and wrap things on up right here on Media One. We'll be back in just a moment.
Here is the
Media One Sports presentation of Wright State University Athletics is brought to you in part by the Midwestern Collegiate Conference, a solid foundation building for the future.
And back out to the Irvin J. Nutter Center with Mark Vest. I'm Geoff Kim. Thanks for joining us on Media One. The Wright State Raiders beat Central Michigan by a score of 79-72, and it was the Sherman Curry show to be sure tonight.
Well, it really was. You know, Sherman came into the game averaging 4 points and 2 rebounds. And early in the first half, you've got foul trouble for Keon and Thad. Marvin Rogers spends a lot of time on the bench, and Sherman comes in with a 19-point, 8-rebound performance. So really stepped up big. That's what you need from your people off the bench.
And how big is that, coming on in from an injury to have that strong of a performance for a team that had been floundering? Now all of a sudden maybe they have some confidence back.
Well, confidence was what they needed. Sherman Curry needed confidence as well. You mentioned coming off the injury. To come out, have a strong game like that, you're able to overcome an injury from a mental standpoint.
Let's look over some of the scoring tonight. Brent Larson had 1 point for the Chippewas, 11 points for Jerry Glover, 2 points for Ryan Jansen, 14 points for John Borovich, 11 points for Luke Johnson, 7 for Tim Kistner, 4 points for Dan Schell, 5 points for Ed Carter, and 17 points for Aaron Brown. For the Wright State Raiders, 10 points for Keon Brooks, 9 for Steve Yeagle. A game-high 19 points for Sherman Curry, 11 points for Brandon Pardon, 13 points for Marvin Rogers, 8 for Thad Burton, 6 points for Steno Koss, 1 point for Ryan Gross, and 2 for Bruno Petersons.
Really a lot of balance for the Raiders. You've got 4 people in double figures and then 2 more with 9 and 1 with 8. So a lot of offensive balance this afternoon for the Raiders. That's what they needed to beat a tough Central Michigan team.
Central Michigan shot 38% from the field. They shot just a hair under 30% from behind the arc and 64% from the charity stripe. They had 21 turnovers, 2 blocks, and 9 steals. The Raiders shot 47.5% from the field, 47% from behind the arc. That had been the difference. 65% from the charity stripe. They had 28 turnovers, and that's got to come down, certainly, Mark. 3 blocks and 10 steals. But the 2 numbers that strike you tonight, I think, is the 3-point percentage and the turnovers.
Yeah, the turnovers for Wright State, 28. A lot of those unforced. You know, they came down in transition situations and turned the basketball over. luckily they shot 47% from the floor. They shoot in the lower 40s with 28 turnovers, and I think the outcome of the game is totally different. But again, big game out of Sherman Curry. He stepped up to the plate when Ed Schilling needed him. Raiders come out with a 7-point victory.
And really, the Raiders do a great job surviving subpar performances from Thad Burton and Keon Brooks tonight.
Well, and Thad, we talked about it very many times through the second half. A lot of what he got hung up with was mental. He got tied up in little scraps with the Central Michigan players, and that took him out of his ball game. Thad ends the game today with 8 points and 6 rebounds, a very, very subpar performance for Thad. And Central Michigan, I'm sure they had him right where they wanted him. He's a dominant player. If you can get inside his head and get him out of the basketball game, you can control him inside, and that's what they did today.
Wright State had a lead as many as 15 points tonight. They came away with a 7-point win, and obviously, as we had mentioned before in the first half, they have trouble closing out each end of the halves.
Well, they really do, and starting the second half, they got caught in the same rut, and that's what happens when you turn the basketball over. When you need to put the hammer in the coffin of people, you need to come down on the offensive end, you need to convert. On the other side of the coin, what they were doing, they were coming down, turning the basketball over. Central Michigan turned around transition and going down, capitalizing on those errors. So that's one area where I think this team is going to grow. They've got freshmen at the point guard position. They've got a lot of new people in their lineup. That will come with maturity.
Well, once again, the final score out here at the Irvin J. Nutter Center, the Wright State Raiders 79 and the Central Michigan Chippewas 72. Wright State moves to a record of 5-5. The Chippewas fall to 2-6. Thanks to our director, Bob Jones, tonight. So, for Mark Vest, I'm Geoff Kim. So long from the Nutter Center.